great need to bring awareness. It's really the fight of our lives to try to bring awareness to the plight of farm animals who suffer greatly behind closed doors. And it's a, you know, people can look at this and see what's wrong. You know, monkeys shouldn't be pets. People don't want to know what's happening with farm animals because it affects their life. So it's a tough job. But I'm going to go over some of the things, you know, in terms of my story, how we got started. And the biggest, most important message that I have is that I worked at Farm Sanctuary for a year to really understand and learn how to do this. There are people who start farm animal sanctuaries and think they're farm animals. Farmers do it all the time. If you're really going to get into this and give those animals the best care that they could have and to understand their diet needs, to understand, I'm going to watch my time, and to understand parasite issues and to understand housing and temperature needs, I don't know how you could do this without either volunteering or doing an internship at another place or doing what I did. And I actually used to work in film and television, and I told Jean and Lori, I'll do undercover video for you, and my husband's a film editor, and we're a whole package if you'll let me work here for a year. Typically, you don't want to have an employee come that you know is going to leave in a year, you know, but that was the arrangement, and I got really lucky that I was able to do that. It also gave me the opportunity to really understand the amount of work that's involved. And I'll tell you this right now, for a long time, I really didn't have a life outside the sanctuary. It's so much work. And when you're first starting and you don't have any money, we didn't have any money to start with. Our first fundraiser was our wedding, and what is now our goat pasture with only a handful of chickens, and we raised $8,000. But we had to find a property that was zoned to have farm animals. There's regulations with your town, how many two-legged animals, how many four-legged animals you can have per acre. You have to be in an area where you can have livestock. I don't like calling them that, but that's the deal. And there are strict regulations that we have to adhere to. We had to get a permit to be open to the public. Woodstock, you would think it's this liberal hippie town, so freaking anal retentive. I mean, like, you got to get a permit to crap in the woods, kind of crazy. It really was a lot of work to get to the point that we could be open to the public. You have to form your nonprofit. We became a 501c3, took like 6 months or something. You need a board of directors. You have to write bylaws. What I did is while I worked at Farm Sanctuary, I read 2 books. One of them was literally called Starting a Nonprofit for Dummies or something like that, you know, to really understand the basics. I had a whole other career before this, and I didn't have any experience in, you know, I grew up in Kentucky, but I was never around any farm animals. So that time that I spent at Farm Sanctuary was invaluable. And one thing, if you are interested in farm animals, every year Farm Sanctuary has a critter care conference. It's a weekend-long crash course workshop. I think they maybe allow 60 people in. I went to that in 2002, and, you know, most people run screaming after because they really give you the real deal. It's a lot of work, and you need to not be socially inept. You need to be a personality and get people excited about what you're doing. You know, I myself as the executive director was out tabling all the time, engaging my community, walking around all the shops in our town, trying to get brochures, and would you be involved, and can you donate this to this little raffle that we're doing? So much work, you guys, to really start building the funds. We got lucky in our first year. I mean, this is unfortunate, but this is the nature of startup sanctuaries. 2 sanctuaries closed the year that we got started. And because of my relationship to Farm Sanctuary and the shelter director there, these 2 sanctuaries, one was Wilderness Ranch in Colorado, one was Umani Sanctuary in Pennsylvania. Both of them in existence for a long time, both of them closing down with hundreds of animals. And you know, Umani Sanctuary, and I'm sorry to say, they decided to have kids. They couldn't handle both the sanctuary and their 2 children. My uterus is going to stay purposefully empty because I cannot, you know, I don't know how you can do this and be a good mother. I know my limitations, and believe me, I'm exhausted at the end of the day. There's not enough hours in my day to do everything we need to do to continue growing and to continue doing the work that we do. I could never be a mother. If you're thinking about having kids, honestly, forget about it. And I say that in all sincerity, forget about it. You can't do both. Sorry, I'm going to go on here. So, land and zoning, getting a board of directors, writing your mission statement like Carrie said, your bylaws, getting all the paperwork in place. So, in our situation, we own our property. It's because we have a mortgage. We have 23 acres. Our house sits on that 23 acres. We bought a huge open hayfield, and we built the entire sanctuary from scratch since 2004. Ran all the plumbing and electric, erected the barns, every fence post that went into that rocky ground came from these muscles right here. I'm a little bit flabby now that I do mostly administrative stuff. But basically, you know, it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of like beer and vegan pizza parties and come help us erect fencing, and lots of fun doing it, lots and lots of work. In terms of the first animals that we took, we actually took in some chickens from Farm Sanctuary that had come from a hurricane-devastated area, so we had a bunch of commercial egg layers, and then the calls started coming in. As soon as you start up, like I was saying, the 2 sanctuaries that closed down, the first place they went to was Farm Sanctuary. Can you take these 12 pigs? I've got 10 goats and 10 sheep that, you know, we can't find a home for them. There's families, they're close friends, special needs animals. So for us, in the first year, those 2 sanctuaries closed down, and we took in their animals in exchange for them helping us financially. So even though it's upsetting that 2 sanctuaries closed, it was really how we got off the ground, because Farm Sanctuary said, why don't you go to Jenny? She's starting from scratch. She could use the money if you can help her with your existing donors. So that's how we really got started. And in 6 years, we started the nonprofit in 2004. We built our first chicken shed. We now have a visitor center that's also an animal infirmary with, you know, radiant heat in the floor, and we have a public restroom, really important. We have a huge goat and sheep barn. We have a huge pig barn. We've got 5 chicken coops, 2 running sheds for our steer. The pigs and the turkey share a barn. We just had a donor give us $30,000, and we built a duck and goose habitat, so we're now able to take them. You can't imagine how many animals we get from New York City, a call every weekend, during the week for a rooster in the backyard, or a little goat that escaped from some kind of ritual slaughter, or one of the live kill markets. Over 100 live kill markets down in the city. And we have to say no, but we have a network of people and sanctuaries. We're always talking to one another. Can you take this? I know of these 2 goats that are kind of close to your sanctuary. Can you help with that? You have to form alliances if you really want to help as many farm animals as you can. There's not that many people that want to adopt cows. There are not that many people that want to adopt 800-pound pigs. So you become stagnant for a while, until you can open up more space, until an animal unfortunately passes away. We have 14 800-pound pigs right now. I don't have room for anybody else. We luckily, for the first time since our existence, were able to adopt out 4 pig siblings that we had. So we just took 4 new pigs in, So space is limited, and you can easily become a hoarder in a bad sanctuary. And I'm telling you right now, there are some crap sanctuaries out there that even I have visited that, criminal neglect, in my opinion, because they don't know how to take care of their goats. Their goats have cassius lymphonitis, big open pussy sores, a horrible disease, and they're putting healthy goats in with these sick goats in crowded areas. In poop-infested pasture. You've got to have enough pasture. We only have 4 steer. We can't take any more cows in. That's not fair to them. That's a lot of grass that they eat. So all these issues come up, and it hurts to have to say no, and we do it several times a week. But you really have to know your limitations and not become a hoarder. Because believe me, that happens. I went to a sanctuary where a pig hadn't left its stall in 3-4 years, had what's known as mechanical blindness because of the fat over its eyelids, and hadn't left its stall. Its hooves so overgrown. And I look over and they've got a bag of dog chow because they said it was cheaper to feed the animal dog chow than pig food, which is bullshit because I know a bag of 50-pound bag of pig food costs $9. That's what I'm talking about. And you know, a lot of people go to these sanctuaries, they have no idea how these animals are supposed to be taken care of, but it's those of us who know the proper care of these animals that are horrified. I left that place crying. People are still donating money to them, so it's awful. We have volunteers, we have a staff of 9 and a $500 million budget every year. It's expensive. But we do, for our chickens, and you know, if a chicken has a crop impaction where their food gets stuck down here, you know, where their food sits, a piece of straw or something, and all of a sudden they've got this big, you got to be prepared to, that's a $400 surgery. We take our steer all the way up to Cornell University and spend thousands on their x-rays. You know, if you're not able to financially do for those animals what you would do for your cats and dogs, you shouldn't be in the business. We don't take in animals unless we can afford to deal with their emergencies and their health needs. And to do someone to say, oh, that's a chicken, just let it, that's criminal. To me, that's not a good situation at all. Every one of our animals gets the care it deserves as an individual, as if you were providing that care for your cat or dog. There is no difference. They're all individuals and they all matter. I could go on and on, but I'm totally over time, and I'm sorry. So thanks, you guys.